Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have the prayer and the pledge by Councilman David Broussard.
So, our heads, please, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas,
Present.
Councilmember Brooke Marcotte, Councilmember Marvin Lewis,
Here.
Councilmember David Broussard,
Here.
Councilmember Deidre Ledbetter,
Here.
Councilmember Dee Dee Johnson-Reed, here, Councilmember Dustin Sweer.
Here.
Thank you. Do you have any public comment cards? Has any comment cards been filled out? I don't see any. I'll tell you that time to put your phone on silent. If we had public comment, there'd be no back and forth, but since we don't, we move on to item 2A.
Acceptance of the minutes of May 2nd, 2023, which will be published on May 13th, 2023, which did publish.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas and a second. Who's the second? Councilwoman Deidre Ledbetter. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on our minutes May 2nd? None? Please vote your machines. Thank you. Madam Clerk, item 3A.
John Warner Smith, Executive Director, and Adam Foreman, Senior Manager for the Interpretation and Education of the Shadows of the Text, to introduce themselves to the council.
Great.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Warner Smith. Just speaking to Mr. Lewis here, I found out that we're related.
Oh, okay.
Man, I got more kinfolk around in Iberia than I thought I had, huh?
Now we got to keep an eye on you.
Yeah. Again, thank you all for giving Adam and I an opportunity to come over and just say hello to you, introduce ourselves. Adam is a native of Delcom. We stole him from Chicago. He worked at the Shadows many, many years ago. He's a teenager and went on to do great things in the museum world. We brought him back just recently to be the senior manager for interpretation and education at the Shadows. Adam, just stand up so everybody can see how tall you are. Thank you. I won't be long. Let me say this, though. About a week ago, I got an invitation from Lafayette, where I worked for many years in city government there, to go to Lafayette today, this afternoon. They're celebrating the bicentennial, and they're inviting past council members, city and parish, and appointed employees, and I was one of those appointed people. And I told them, no way, no way. I'm going to miss this opportunity to address the Iberia City Council, just to have a picture taken with some old guys from way back in the day, you know. So, but glad to be here. The Shadows recently reopened. Come visit, come see us. We have a new experience, an experience in which we really explore more deeply the history of the Shadows, and we tell the stories of the enslavers and the enslaved. It's still the Shadows. It's still that crown jewel of Iberia and Main Street. But we're telling the full history of it, and I think you'll find that experience informative and inspiring. Adam is leading the interpretive framework. He's doing the work. For now, he's actually conducting the tours. So come see us. We have visitations, visiting on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 10:30 and 2:30. Our doors are, of course, always open on all other days if you want to come in to the visitor center. Thank you, Mayor, for giving the opportunity to us.
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good. Thank y'all for coming. Glad to see the Shadows is open.
If I take off.
No, not at all. Thank you.
Welcome, cousin.
All right, item 3B.
Brad Colder of Colder Slavin and Company LLC to present financial report for fiscal year ending October 31st, 2022.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Here to present the audit as of October 31st, 2022. Why don't we get right into it? I'm happy to report, last year we had 4 internal control and compliance findings, okay? We went through those in pretty great detail, had some discussion. This year, happy to report that 4 findings has been reduced down to 2 findings. Both repeat findings. One is regarding the bond compliance. You have to fund it with a sinking fund, contingency fund, certain types of reserve funds. You did put money aside. We met with Kevin. There wasn't money necessarily in the right places. That was the reason the finding was repeated. I think he has a better understanding now, and I'm hoping to be standing here a year from now and that finding be removed. The other finding is regarding the presentation of the financial statements. What that finding is if you don't have somebody on staff that can draft this 95-page report, we have to put that finding. Kevin does a great job, but he's not able to produce this 95-page report. We do a ton of governmental work at my firm. Almost all of our clients have that finding. So if I'm here next year and you just have that one finding, check mark, no problem. That's fantastic. Any questions anyone has about the 2 findings? If there's none, I just want to say it really is a great improvement from one year to the next to be able to remove those 2 regarding the cash overdrafts in the previous year and the sales tax dedication money being moved. It was good to be able to remove those. So staff ought to be commended for getting rid of those. It's a much better situation this year. Happy to report that. With that being said, why don't we get into the audit report? So we'll go do some pages in the audit report, and we'll also have 6 exhibits that we'll take a look at, similar to the presentation last year. Let's look at page 78, and that is the sewer fund. And again, as we go through today, I'm going to try and hit the high spots. If I'm going too fast or I have a question or I skip something, y'all just stop me and we'll discuss anything you'd like to discuss. But taking a look at page 78, you can see we have a comparison between 21 and 22 for the sewer fund. And we look at operating revenues, charging for services. Your customer revenues, pretty much the same number, 4.3 million both years. You had a little bit of a decrease in the revenues coming from parish government from 989,000 down to 845. And you get total operating revenues decreased by about 115,000 from 5.3 million to right at 5.2 million because of the decrease in revenues from parish government. Get on to operating expenses. Cost of those services provided went up quite a bit. 3.2 million last year up to right at 3.8. He's talking about $565,000, okay? It's not apparent here, but it's worth pointing out, about $250,000 of that 565 is not cash related. You might say, okay, what does that mean? GASB 68, which is regarding your net pension liability, we have to record a pension expense, but that's not money that was actually spent. We have to record it for accounting purposes. So you see the 565, you can really reduce that by 250 and you get to a cash increase in expenditures. That's closer to about 320,000, so about a 10% increase from 21 to 22. So the 565 is not great, but it's not the full story.
Right.
The $250,000 needs to be backed out. Again, it's accounting, it's somewhat complicated, but we have to do it that way. It's not our choice. Next is depreciation, right at 2.2 million both years, and then total operating expenditures. They're increased by what happened in the cost that we just discussed. 5.4 million up to 6 million. And of course, that operating loss, it increased by quite a bit because of the increase in expenditures and the reduction in the revenues. $134,000 loss last year. That loss increased to a loss of $835,000 in the current year, give or take an increase in the loss of $700,000 for the reasons we discussed. Next section is non-operating revenues and expenditures. You can see they're all detailed out, but in total, you can see you had a net expenditure last year of $72,000. This year, you have a net revenue of $20,000. The big change here, you can see the only parentheses on the page from an expense standpoint is your interest expense. You refunded some bonds. And that refunding saved you on the interest expense to the tune of roughly $100,000. That's your swing from a net expense last year to a net revenue in the current year. So that's a great thing. The loss before contributions and transfers, $206,000 last year, up to $815,000 this year. You have your capital contributions. It's always running between $400,000 and $450,000 every year. We did have to transfer out $1 million in the current year, so your change in net position is $1.4 million. Reduction last year was an increase of $246,000.
What was the transfer for the $1 million? Where did that go?
I really don't recall exactly where it went, but there was money that had to be moved between some funds to balance things the way they needed to be as of October 31st, but I do not have it. Kevin, do you recall where we transferred the million from utilities fund? I don't recall off the top of my head.
For the utility fund?
We transferred out $1 million in utility fund.
That didn't come from didn't go, it went to the general fund.
Okay.
Swapped out some money that was in ARPA.
Yeah, that's the money that we swapped out, and then that allowed us to hire our own professionals and not have to bid out and go through the federal procurement process.
Okay.
I think that's where we swapped it out.
Any other questions on page?
What was the reasoning for the reduction in parish revenues of 150?
I don't have an explanation on that. The mayor could probably explain that better than me.
No, I can't. We go by the flow meters, we go by the flow. They have not really increased their capacity, but what they are bringing is coming too fast. So the rate of flow has increased. That is causing us some problems, and we are in the process of re-engineering and negotiating that.
There was another factor.
But I don't know the other factor. I don't know that there is another factor.
I knew there was some ongoing negotiations, so I
No,
said, let
he
me get the
clarified
mayor
it. I thought there
to
was
go ahead and
another
address
factor
this.
beside- I thought there was another factor beside that.
I don't know what the other factor is on why their production of waste was less. I can't tell you that.
I know Vince may be able to expand on it,
And
but.
we are looking, I can just share, because we're looking at flows of each year, and they do vary.
Pretty wildly, from what I understand, depending on
They do
rainfall
vary,
and other
right.
factors.
And that's the other thing. If we have a dry year, then we lose more money because less comes from, they have I&I problems just like we do. So if they have a dry year, this is weird, we make more money in a wet year than a dry year because all of us have I&I in our sewer systems because they're all old systems.
Right.
So, you can start looking at the weather and figuring, where we lost and where we did.
Also, we account for revenue from the parish on the project that we are going to own at the end of the completion, and that the parish is reimbursing us for. It's recognized as revenue.
Okay.
So depending on the number of projects that we're owning in the year.
So reimbursement expense is recognized as revenue?
We just said.
That's what he said, that's what I heard, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because we take the lead on a lot of those projects because we have an in-house engineer, which we will have again with our new person, Craig. And so we take the lead on a lot of projects at the plant that we share. And then they reimburse us.
Okay, I guess I'm just confused with why we would recognize that as revenue.
Accounting standards. I mean, it's the same reason you say, well, why do I have to pick up
really not.
$250,000 of expenditures?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
No,
It's-
no, ma'am,
yeah.
I realize it's really not, but that's how they say we have to do it.
And that's
Okay.
because I said, like, to
Came
stand
from
here
another
when I was
entity,
preparing for the
yeah.
presentation and say you got $250,000 of expense, that cash that didn't leave, it's accounting that we have to do.
I mean, I understand that, I'm just,
Yeah, but it's not revenue.
yeah, I mean,
We're not making money.
I understand gap, but this is, I
And
just
even when
don't
we're gonna
like.
get to Exhibit 3, we have to pick up bonds as another financing source. In a
Okay.
government, that's just straight debt. In a
Right.
government, it looks like revenue to the layperson. You know, because you've been on the council, but if somebody
Mm-hmm.
just looks at, wow, you had a fantastic year. No, we didn't. We issued debt.
No, we just,
Right.
no, we just borrowed money.
Yeah.
So government accounting is kind of funny that way at times.
Okay,
So.
all right, that's cool.
Any other questions on 78? If we're good, why don't we go to Exhibit 1? And Exhibits 1 and 2 are going to be regarding the sewer fund. In Exhibit 1, we've seen this one before. This is the per customer per month, and it has a 4-year breakdown.
Excuse me, where's Exhibit 1?
Yeah, have the exhibit.
Second
we got
sheet,
it.
yeah, pull the little cover sheet in the book.
Oh, in the
and
book.
Pull, it should be loose.
Oh, I don't think I had one of those.
Uh-oh,
I didn't have that,
uh-oh,
We don't have
yeah.
well, we're gonna need them.
Yeah, y'all want to make a copy?
Yeah, no, seriously, I hate to do that, but y'all, we gotta look at this together.
Right.
You have the exhibits, Mayor?
I got them right here.
Can you make a copy of yours? Because mine has some
That's
notations on
what
it.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
So we'll take just a slight break and let her make the copies, because y'all gotta look at all that.
You want me to wait while she's making copies? You want me to move on and try and cover something else in the meantime?
Is there something else you can talk about that's not this?
That's not this?
That doesn't have, that we don't need the copy?
Right.
I can go to the balance sheet. I don't normally do in that order, but we could take a look at the balance sheet and.
Okay, I mean, that way we're
Let's
not
do
wasting time, sure.
Page 65. Throwing me off here, man. I had a set agenda that I was going by and everything
Well.
tied in together. So we're gonna go balance sheet and back to
You and
sewer
New
fund.
Iberia, it's always different.
No, I can do it. So page 65. We look at this
Okay.
every year. We call it statement of net position. It's essentially what you call in the business a balance sheet. You have the four left two columns, governmental activities, business type activities. I'm gonna concentrate on your third column from the left, which is your total for 2022, and compare that to the far right column, your totals for 2021. I'm not gonna hit every line item. Stop me if you need to talk about something. But starting off in cash, I'm gonna hit the high points. $50.7 million of cash this year, 50.3 last year. Healthy cash position. I'm gonna tell you that. You have it right here on the page. Moving on down, no real big variations really. Wanted to point out the capital assets you can see, non-depreciable, that's gonna be your land and CIP, went down from 14 million to about 13 million. This is some of the CIP being put into use. But look at the increase we have in depreciable assets, 70 million up to 76. If we were doing this in order, you see you spent about $6 or $7 million on capital outlay. That's the reason from the increase from 70 to 76 million.
Okay.
Total assets increase right at about 9 million, 140.5 to 149.6, so right at about $9 million, most of that being in capital assets, which is being called depreciable assets here on this page. Don't really want to talk too much about the deferred outflows. Again, this is accounting that I don't think helps anyone in the room. Moving on to liabilities. We have quite a few listed here. I want to point out the very first line item, overdraft. You'll notice the dashes in the current year and the overdraft we had last year. That was the reason for the removal of the finding. So happy to have dashes here. I'm hoping to be able to remove this line item altogether next year. We won't have anything in 22, hopefully nothing in 23. So I'm happy to report that. And then getting to the total. We increased from 70.9 million to 84.5. You say, wow, why do we have such a huge increase in the liabilities? You can see that, right above the total net pension liability moved from 13.3 million to 24.3 million. You did nothing differently. The actuarial report comes in, we have to take these numbers and put it on this statement, but nothing changed for you guys. The mortality table may change, interest rate changed, obviously we all know that. And so your liability goes from 13 to 24 million. You did nothing wrong. You have no control over it, and we don't either. We get the actuarial report, it goes in here. Line right above that, other post-employment benefits payable. That decreased by $1.5 million, from 10.1 to 8.6. Can't tell you why. I get an actuarial report, and same thing here. Mortality tables, interest rate, other factors. So you can see you don't have any control over these two liabilities, but they are quite a large percentage of your total liabilities. Wanted to point that out because when we get to the Exhibit 4, they come into play with the analysis that we make. Don't want to talk about the deferred inflows because I don't think they're worth talking about. And then we get to net position. So the largest component in net position is your net investment in capital assets. 60 million last year versus 63 million this year. So of course the number here is net of debt. That's why it doesn't match what we have in the asset section. Then we have the restricted portions of net position, capital projects, debt service, sales tax dedications. Let's remember this 14.8 million. This is going to come into play with Exhibit 4. And then the unrestricted is actually a deficit of 11.3 million last year and 13.8 million in the current year. So let's keep going in order for this standpoint. Let's finish up with net position. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I just want to ask you one question about the deferred inflows of resources. Deferred inflows of resources, OPED, went from 469 to 4.4 million. Okay, is there a reason?
Yes, ma'am. So what's going on here, this all comes from that actuarial report.
Okay,
So what happens is the deferred outflows, the deferred inflows, and the net, either OPEB or net pension liability, you got to kind of look at those as a whole.
okay,
So when I made the comment that the other post-employment benefit went down by 1.6 million, I would expect to see that deferred inflow go up.
okay,
And so the net effect, if you net them all together, isn't as great as it appears when you just look at the liability by itself.
okay,
To me, none of this stuff is useful for y'all. Y'all can't control it. It's payable over an extremely long period of time. I would argue that the net pension liability, it really isn't even your liability. But
Okay.
again, that's my opinion, and that's not what I have to do. I have to do what they say. So, because to your point here, if you go back up while we're on it, go to deferred outflows, okay? And look at deferred outflows for the pension. Last year, 4.8
right.
moved to 7.4.
7 million,
You see,
7.7,
You
yeah.
talk about millions and millions of dollars moving. I cannot explain it to you. You'd have to get in touch with the actuary, and I wouldn't waste my time. You're not going to learn anything.
Right,
And it will come here next year, and it'll go down by 10 million. So, wow, but it's down 10 million. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you again, I have no idea why.
okay. All
Just
right.
being honest. Any other questions on 65?
No, sir.
Okay, let's skip exhibits 1, 2, and 3,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and let's go to exhibit 4.
I told you.
Gonna challenge my organizational skills here by skipping around. But I told y'all to remember the unrestricted net position from 65 that we had the deficit of 13.8 million. Last year was 11.3. You can see that on this page. Back in 2020, it was 15.6. Net pension liability, we've been talking about it. So the 17.6 here, we're showing in 2022, we're saying that's your net pension liability, but 24.2 is what we have on the previous page. Because again, I'm netting the outflow and the inflow for this page here.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And then we add back that net pension, we add back the OPEB in all 3 years, and I add back the sales dedications because to me, while they're restricted for their uses, they're widely enough available to be considered available for the government as a whole. And that's where I want to get to what's your available net position, okay? And this year is 27.7 million, last year was 27.1, year before that, 23.9. Next section, we take the annual expenditures. These are from Exhibit 3, so we'll cover those in reverse. But you can see annual expenditures at 42 million. We back out the capital outlay, and again, that's to get to an operation. What are we doing from spending from an operations standpoint? Operations cost City of New Iberia roughly $35 million, okay? Last year it cost 32, the same amount roughly in 2020. So your daily expenditures on operations, $96,000 in change, compared to $88,000 last year. That's 365 days a year. You're spending that every day, whether you're open or closed. And then we say, okay,
Is
how
that
mu-
increase because of pension? I mean, I didn't think we hired a bunch of new employees, right?
No.
No.
Okay, so it's just, okay. Just
Exhibit 3 will give you a better feel for why, because expenditure, everything was more expensive.
Right,
Just everything across the board is more. We saw that in utility a little bit, but as we're going to see the government as a whole, y'all made a bunch of money. Your sales tax are way
we
up,
spent a bunch of money.
but you had to spend a bunch of money too.
okay,
That's the way it worked.
all right.
So on number 3, you can see the amount we say you need. This is kind of a government standard. 60 days of operations would equate to roughly 5.8 million. Let's call it rounded off. Last year was 5.2. We said earlier you had 27.7. So you have quite a bit of extra. So the bottom line of this page with the double underline on it, you have 288 days of operations available. This is citywide, okay? That's exceptional. It's really excellent. I was looking at this and preparing for the meeting today, and I was like, wow, when you take 308 and 266 and you add them together and you average them, you get 287. So a good way to look at it is 2022 is kind of right in the middle of where you guys were in 21 and 20. And when you consider the growth and the expansion, everything that you and the council have going on, or the mayor and the council have going on, this is a pretty healthy number. It's good, but you have a lot of projects in place. I mean, and I know the mayor has a lot of aspirations to continue to grow the city, and that's a good thing. So the money is needed, but you do have a healthy fund balance for the city as a whole. I'm happy to report that.
Okay,
You don't have it on the page in front of you, but just for point of reference, I made some notations. General fund days of operations. You still want the same 60 days as a benchmark. In 2022, we're at roughly 186 days. You might say, okay, how does that compare to last year, Brad? I want to compare 21 and 22. That's what you've been doing. In 2021, 150 days. So we actually had an increase in the general fund, a little bit of a decrease in the city as a whole, but an increase in the general fund.
Said 2022, 151 days, right?
So 2022, 186.
186, okay,
21 was
2021,
151.
150 even.
okay.
Yes, sir. So overall, the city's healthy. I mean, with all the growth going on, you have healthy fund balances. You can pay your debt, you can pay expenditures. You need to watch it, because you have the debt out there, you gotta fund that debt, and it takes some money to do that. But as long as the money keeps coming in, you're in a healthy state.
okay.
Any questions on Exhibit 4? If there's not, I think what I want to do is go back and conclude sewer funds. So let's go to Exhibit 1. We'll cover Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 in succession. So Exhibit 1 is going to take the per customer per month for the sewer fund and how we're doing and compare City of New Iberia to itself over the past 3 years or 4 years. Number of customers, I mean, we're basically 11,800 all 4 years. I mean, a little bit of an increase or decrease, but right at 11,800. Income at 3672 this year, less than last year, a little higher than 20, but less than 19. I always like looking at what's that furthest, the oldest year, so to speak, and what's the trend. You never really want to see that 19 was higher than 22 from a revenue standpoint, because we're about to look at expenditures, and expenditures are never cheaper over that same 4-year span. And you can see it right here on the page. Back in 19, $40.71. You did have a little bit of a dip in 20 and 21 to 38, but up to almost $43 in 2022. And we saw this when we looked in the audit report that expenditures were high. Here's it broken out on a per customer per month basis. And you get to operating income or loss, and it's unfortunate that you'll have a loss all 4 years. And this being the biggest loss on the page is $5.91. I was hopeful last year when we were at 95 cents that maybe I could have stood here this year, you ought to have been break even, which would be good. To me, at this line, you're not trying to make a ton of money, but you like to be break even or a slight positive.
Right.
So you were close to that last year, but we took a step back this year. As we said, income basically was a reduction, as you talked about, and then the expenditures went up by quite a bit. Now remember, baked into this 4263 is that $250,000 that I talked about at GASB 68. So, you know, the loss is not quite the 591 that we're showing. A little bit of that has been reduced by the GASB 68. With all that being said, we add back about $15 in change of depreciation. So that bottom line, we're calling it operating income or loss without depreciation. Another way I look at this is cash. What am I generating from a cash standpoint per customer per month? This year, right at about $10. It's not bad. Last year was 15. So you took, you know, a third off of what you were last year. Back in 20, it was $12.50, we'll call it, roughly the same number in 2019. So the $10 this year is not a bad number, it's just the worst number on the page.
Right.
And that's being kind of, to me, driven by higher expenses and revenues not being able to keep up with the pace of the expenditures increasing.
Okay.
Any questions on Exhibit 1? Okay. Exhibit 2 is going to give us a comparison of New Iberia to Youngsville, Lafayette, and Broussard. And I like this because while we all vary in size, New Iberia is quite a bit larger than Youngsville and Broussard and smaller than Lafayette. This is broken down per customer per month. So it's still, you can compare apples to apples in some cases. You can see income very similar to Youngsville, quite a bit less than Lafayette, but quite a bit higher than Broussard. Now, we'll see when we look at another exhibit on Broussard. Broussard has the luxury of having an extreme amount of sales taxes, so they are subsidizing their utility fund with their sales taxes. The other cities on this page, they can't do that. So y'all have to actually run it like it's supposed to be, kind of like a business, and try and break even or make a little bit of money. Operating expenditures, you can see you're very close to Broussard, higher than Youngsville, not as high as Lafayette. The one that I kind of want to focus on is that middle, operating income or loss. You can see you're losing right at about $6. You want to be, to me, kind of the model would be Lafayette, I would say, that 220. Youngsville, it's exceptional to have the 540. That's great. I'm not taking anything away from that. It's a good number. You don't want to be Broussard. I mean, you don't want to lose $20 from operations. But somewhere in between Lafayette and Youngsville where you want to be. So you have a little bit of a room to run, so to speak, to get to that point, but it's a goal that's worthy. You can add back depreciation. Say, okay, what are we doing from a cash standpoint compared to the other cities and towns? It's not as big as of a gap there in some ways. You're generating $10 that we talked about. Youngsville is generating almost 16. Lafayette's at 13. So, I mean, as good as Lafayette is from operations, they're over $8 ahead of you. From a cash perspective, you close the gap a little bit. You have more depreciation. So 13 versus 10, and then Broussard's even losing, from a cash perspective, $3 per customer. But again, they have a very healthy sales tax base that they can do that. So this just gives you another angle to look at how is New Iberia doing to other cities and towns of varying sizes. Any questions on Exhibit 2? Okay, with that being said, let's move on to Exhibit 3. And Exhibit 3 is going to take all the revenues and expenditures from the entire government and put them on one page. So rather than going through 25 pages, we take a look at one page. A lot of information here. Far left column is your final amended budget. Next to that is your actual audited numbers for the current year. Then your variance from your final budget to your current year. And the far right 3 columns are going to be your actual audited numbers from the 3 previous years. I'm going to concentrate on the budget and the actual and the variance, and we'll make some comparisons to prior years if necessary. Take a look at ad valorem, budgeted 4.7, brought in 4.5, so a little less than we thought, and really quite a bit less than the previous years. I mean, it's the lowest on the page.
Yeah, 200,000.
Right. Sales taxes is really the big winner on the page. It's the healthy spot of the year. You budgeted 19.9. You had a healthy budget. It was an increase over last year. Came in at 20.6 million. 694,000 better than budget. $1.5 million higher than last year. And I remember standing up here last year saying the increase in sales tax was exceptional. I'm happy to say it is again. Over 8% is exceptional. So while we saw those increase in expenditures in the utility fund, to have an increase of over 8% in the sales taxes, that's fantastic. It's a great job. Franchise taxes, $1.6 million budgeted, brought in $2.1 million. That's the highest on the page. Licenses and permits, $1.5 million budgeted, $1.385 came in. And you can see that's the lowest on the page. And we took a look at that. Occupational license lagged a little bit behind this year. We made a verbal recommendation that to look into that and maybe reach out and try and make sure that everyone in the city of New Iberia is paying their occupational license as they should be. Intergovernmental revenues, this is revenues coming from another governmental source, budgeted 21.6, actually got 4.9. I think Kevin always budgets what he hopes the government will give you from some, and then what we do is actually show what you actually got. You actually got 4.9. That's more than last year, but not quite as much as 20. We had quite a bit of COVID money that was coming in. Charges for service is going to be sewer and some of the park-related funds that come in. $5 million budgeted. Actually brought in quite a bit more than that at almost $5.4 million, but not quite as much as last year. Fines and forfeits budgeted $229,000, brought in $252,000, and that's the highest. I mean, you look at 2021, they were pretty healthy numbers, but we actually beat those by a little bit this year, so that's good to report. And the miscellaneous, we got to stop at some point. So here's a catch-all. Budgeted $635, brought in about $920, so we did better than budget here and better than last year. Part of the reason for the increase from last year to the current year, you sold some police units. I think that generated roughly $120,000, round number.
Okay.
So you budgeted $55 million of revenues, came in at $40.2 million. That's the highest on the page, and Mayor, I would venture to say that's the highest revenue number ever. So I mean, to stand up here and say that you had the best year ever from a revenue standpoint, and it's not like it's all from grants, from intergovernmental. You had 4.9, but that's not an exceptional number, y'all. Some years are better than that. So from a revenue standpoint, extremely healthy, an exceptional year, the highest, I think, in the history of the city of New Iberia. So that's worth reporting. Moving on to the expenditures. Administrative budgeted 4.1, spent less than that at 3.8. It's a little higher than the previous years. And again, this is part of the reason you asked about the reason for some of the increases in expenditures.
Right.
As we go through these line items, notice each one is going to be higher than the prior year, pretty much across the board.
Our expenses are up.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next line, public safety, budgeted 13.1, spent 12.8, but look at last year, 11.5, year before the 11.1. So quite a bit of an increase there. Got to do it. Public Works, budgeted 2.4, spent 2.5. Last year was 2.3. There's another 200,000. Garbage, budgeted 4.4, came in at 4.4, but again, higher than last year at 4.2.
Right.
Culture and Rec, budgeted 1.1, came in right at about that, but again, higher than any other year on the page. Then we get to urban redevelopment and housing, 1.5 budgeted, roughly 1.5 was spent. But here again, that's the highest expenditure of the previous years. Utility fund, 3.8 spent, as we already discussed, that is going to be the highest. Then we break out depreciation as a separate line item, that 2.2. So when Kevin budgets, we take his total budget and back out the 2.3. That's why there's no variance in the depreciation.
All right.
Pepperplex, this is a new one, budgeted 321, didn't spend quite that at 65,000. We'll have prior years as we go forward. We don't have any prior years now. And then we get to debt service, right on the money there, a little over $2 million budgeted, $2 million spent. This is what it is. Capital outlay budgeted $45.5 million, didn't quite do that, spent $6.9 million. I mean, you can see that's the highest amount of capital outlay spent over the previous years as well. So total expenditures for City of New Iberia, $42 million. Again, I don't have everything in front of me, but I venture to say, Mayor, that's got to be, is that also the highest ever?
I think so.
Yeah, so highest revenues ever, highest expenditures ever. So
And that's what we're supposed to do with the money, is
No,
put
no,
it back.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So you get to excess or deficiency of revenues over expenditure. You say, wow, Kevin budgeted 24.2. We did a lot better than that. We had a deficit of 1.8 million. Previous years were averaging a little over $3 million, if you want to call it that. But you had quite a bit of excess capital this year. And you have about that $2.2 million of depreciation. So as we did with the utility fund, if you add back depreciation to the loss here, we're still cash positive from a governmental standpoint. So
Okay.
everything that we're doing, you still had a little bit of cash left over at the end of the year. That's not a bad thing considering everything that's going on in the city. I'd say it's actually a great thing. Other financing sources, you can see we have $402,000 this year. That's the capital contribution in the sewer fund. That's all we had. But kind of to my point earlier, look at 2021. When we get to the excess after other financing sources, it's an excess of 15.6 million because you issued debt. You didn't really have a phenomenal, it was an okay year, but it really was the 15 million. It was the debt that ballooned that number up. This year, it's a deficit of 1.4 million because we spent more than we brought in. Then we get other revenues. To me, there's nothing there that's really lighting the world on fire. And then the bottom line, excess deficiency, expected to have 11.7 million, came in at 1.4 million. Any questions on Exhibit 3? I mean, that's bringing the entire city together, revenues and expenditures, and taking a look at it. Overall, a strong year. I mean, you had a lot of spending, but you had the revenues to support it. And as I stated, even though you have that loss here, when you add back depreciation, you were still cash positive for the government as a whole, which is a great thing. So we have covered our balance sheet, which is where I normally would have transitioned to next. We've covered Exhibit 4, which was kind of an addendum to the balance sheet. So now we kind of get to Exhibits 5 and 6, which really are here for illustrative purposes. We go back to comparing New Iberia to Lafayette, Youngsville, and Broussard. And on Exhibit 5, we're doing it in the case of really revenue per person. We break out and show you the population, and you can see the wild variations here. And then we say, what are the sales tax rates in the respective cities? You can see New Iberia at 2.5. Lafayette's the only one that's lower at 2%. Youngsville and Broussard both 3.5. Broussard has no property tax to speak of. Youngsville, Lafayette, and New Iberia obviously all have that. And then you get to the bottom line. What are we bringing in per person in New Iberia? $900 pretty much even. How does that compare? Lafayette's at $955. Youngsville is $996. And to my comments earlier when we were talking about Broussard being able to have a negative revenue per person in their sewer fund, well, you can see why. When you're bringing in $1,200 just from sales tax, don't even have a property tax, you can do that.
Right.
There's two ways to spend it. Would you like this number to be higher? I'd venture to say yes. But the other side of the coin would be, say, you know what? You show this to other people, say, New Iberia is one of the cheaper places to live compared to these places, and cheaper places to operate a business. So there's two sides to the coin. You'd probably like to make it higher, but you can make it higher by attracting some more businesses, and I know that the mayor is all about that. Any questions on Exhibit 5?
We're not that far behind the other ones, for sure.
You're really not. When you look at Lafayette and Youngsville, 900 to 955, it's really not that far behind. It's not. And y'all are moving in the right direction. Not that they're not, but y'all are. And then our final exhibit is Exhibit 6. And here also is for illustrative purposes. This is comparing police expenditures per person. So here again, we go ahead and show the police expenditures for the 4 cities, the same 4 cities. We back out the fines to get to what is the net expenditures net of the fine revenues being brought in, and you can see what those numbers are. They vary wildly because of the size of the cities. Population, and we get to that bottom line, kind of where I want to concentrate, the net police expenditures per person. New Iberia is coming right at $258, if you want to call it that. Lafayette, $280. Broussard, $226, and Youngsville, $190. To me, this makes sense. I mean, when you look at it, Broussard and Youngsville probably, have less of a need than the city of New Iberia to spend money on police. I would say y'all at $260 are probably about where you would need to be compared to Lafayette being $280. Because again, this is broken down per customer. Per person.
Mm-hmm. When you look at that fines line, do you see an opportunity? Because I know we got some folks breaking the law. I mean, we have the lowest amount of fines that are being collected compared to all the other cities.
We don't have an interstate. We don't have a major, we can't really work.
We got some people think the interstate's on some of our streets.
I don't disagree, but we don't have enough property on future I-49 to work that area.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, Lafayette, Broussard, and Youngsville pick up, major thoroughfares and highways that they put people out and collect a whole lot of money.
We building more.
Yeah, and so we don't have that luxury. Have we concentrated on, I'm the first to tell you, we have only begun, we have a traffic division now, we have begun recently to write tickets. We are in the process of getting our speed cameras in the school zones, only when they're operating as a school zone. Those things will help, but we have the PD's 5 years old. We have concentrated on a whole lot of other areas and have had success in those areas, but I can't say that I have some giant traffic unit. I don't.
Right.
We just don't. And then again, like I said, we're never gonna catch up some of these cities that have,
No, but I think I see
would
an
try.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Considering the kind of calls that I receive from my constituents about people racing down the streets
Mm-hmm.
and stuff.
I don't disagree. If the chief was here, he'd tell you it's a matter of priorities, and somewhat it is. But as we progress and as our situation in the crime world gets better, and it is getting better, that will probably become more of a focus.
Okay.
For what it's worth, I would say y'all are both right. We do a ton of towns and cities across the parish and various parishes. Those that have a major thoroughfare, major highway, major interstate have a much greater opportunity, and you see their fine. Like Port Barry, I want to say is give or take $550,000. You say, wow, Port Barry, but
What about
yeah.
Generate?
What's that?
What about Generate?
I don't do generous, so I'm not sure.
The marshal is lighting that one up.
But Port Barry, for such a small municipality, generates over $500,000. Why? Because you got 90 going right there, and they are able to write a ton of tickets nonstop. It's just a conveyor belt. I mean, it's as cars pass, there's somebody speeding, and you're just always cutting one out. But I would also agree with you. There's an opportunity, but it's like Mayor said, it's priorities. So I think y'all are both right. But not having a major thoroughfare definitely affects your ability to generate that consistent amount of revenue.
Okay.
And that number in Youngsville is affluent to, there's a certain percentage of Iberia residents that migrate to Youngsville to work. So they have opportunity to give more tickets than we do versus migrating back here. So there is a slight advantage of their community.
You're right. You're right. So there's a lot of things that play there, but you're right. There's an opportunity, but there's also some opportunities you guys don't have.
Right.
The ability to take advantage of. Any questions you have on any exhibit I covered, anything we covered in the presentation, or anything that maybe you saw in the report that you have a question on that I didn't talk about?
Wait a minute, let me see my notes.
I feel like she's searching for something here.
Well, no, I have some things highlighted in my book.
Everybody else kind of sat there and it looked pretty calm, and I said, you know what, she's got me with something here.
No, you may have answered all my questions. I just want to check, make sure. I highlighted some
His
stuff.
read the room
We're
skills are
on a
good.
very sustainable path, in my opinion.
I'm getting a bad reputation on this council.
Very healthy. I mean, to stand here and say it was a record year for revenues, but also a record year for expenditures, but you were still cash positive at the end of the year. I mean, if I'd have said that at the end of last year, that would have been the year you'd have this year, with $7 million of capital outlay, I think that's a great year.
Yeah,
If you look
that
at
was
the
definitely great.
nationwide inflationary rate versus the local inflationary, that's where your expenses are at. In general, you're pretty very close.
Yeah.
I mean,
The whole nation's experiencing.
you look at what we saw in utility fund, when you backed out that Gatsby 68, you're roughly 10% increase year over year. I mean, that's about what inflation ran for a decent amount. And again, depending on what number you look at with the inflation, sometimes it can take certain things out and
Right.
throw you a number that's much lower. Well, when you gotta look at everything together, in my opinion, because we all put gas in our cars and we all eat. So when you take those out, is that really a good inflation number? I don't think it is. So to me, the numbers I saw on the page didn't surprise me. I mean, they kind of coincide with what's going on within our nation, not just within the city.
And
of
if I
Iberia.
asked you consistently amongst other municipalities, you're probably right within the ballpark.
Definitely within the ballpark. That's a safe statement, 100%, yes. And in some cases, we're doing an audit of Karen Crowe right now, so it's not final numbers, but I was looking at the utility fund last week. Stunning, the increases in expenditures. Just stunning, much larger than you guys. And again, it's not to do anything wrong. This is what it's costing to run the sewer system. They're growing a lot, and takes a lot
Well,
of
we're
money.
spending $12 million this year. We won't spend it all in this fiscal year. Some of it will come next year as well, because we have to. We have an aged system, and if we don't fix it, yeah. It will only
There's
cost
more
more.
residents.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor,
You answered my questions. I'm looking at all my highlights.
Look at that, not too bad. Well, let me just take the opportunity to thank the mayor and the council for the business of the city of New Iberia. Really appreciate it on behalf of myself and the firm, and we look forward to continuing the relationship into the future.
thank you for the good words you're having, and we're on top right now.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, we've been on some councils where we were on the bottom and looking down and down. I'm proud that we come up so far. Mr. Mayor, a lot of it's on your head, that, we're doing some good things, and we appreciate y'all keeping up with us.
You're doing a good job, and it's a pleasure to work with
There's
you
been
all.
some good
And
tone tonight
I really appreciate the
compared to
business.
some other years.
No, it's a good report. I mean, I'm not putting, lipstick on something that's not good. I mean, this is a good report, and it's a lot to be proud of for both the council and the mayor. So I
y'all
appreciate the
for
nice
keeping
comments. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 4A.
Special ordinance number 2022-2023-18, amendment number 17, and ordinance amending the budget to reflect additional funding appropriated by the state for the City Park and West End Community Center improvements, re-roofing projects.
I need a motion to open this public hearing.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Dustin Swear and a second by Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed. Is there any public comment? Yes, sir. You have public comment on this?
Public comment. Are you all gonna pass a resolution to accept the audit report
Do we have that on the agenda?
Yeah, the next meeting.
at the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We'll do that. At the next meeting, we'll have that, and we'll also bring on our little contracts for next
I'll on
year.
there, excuse me.
Not a problem, sir.
It's public
It
comment.
always comes.
Yeah, we get a public comment. You all right? Any public comment back on this item we're on? Hearing none, seeing none. I need a motion to close.
Motion.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gosselin, a second by Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed. Thank y'all very much. 4B.
Special ordinance number 2022-2023-19, amendment number 18, and ordinance amending the budget to reflect change order number 4 for Civic Center Marina.
I need a motion to open this public hearing.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Marlon Lewis and Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed. Is there anyone here to comment on this item? Hearing and seeing none, I need a motion to close.
Motion.
Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed and I think Councilman Marlon Lewis. Thank you. 4C.
Ordinance number 2023-14, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a contract with Civic Plus for software to be used by New Iberia Recreation Department and the Pepperplex.
I need a motion to open this public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman David Broussard and Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed. Is there anyone here in the public to comment on this item? Hearing and seeing none, I need a motion to close.
Motion.
Motion.
Councilman Marlon Lewis and Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas. Thank you. Now we move on to 5A.
Special ordinance number 2022-2023-18, amendment number 17, an ordinance amending the budget to reflect additional funding appropriated by the state for the City Park and West End Community Centers improvements, re-roofing projects.
This is the one we. Okay, we're gonna take this one off for now because I don't have the prices. So it's no problem doing the public hearing, but we will wait and bring this back at the next meeting when we have a written authorization from the state. This was done on a phone call, and then we're in the process of also figuring out exactly what, I want you to know exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
The money is approximately, just to tell you before we strike it, it's approximately $250,000, $230,000, and it will be spent equally between the two parks. And what we're looking at is painting in both the community centers and new lighting in both the community centers, especially the big, tall lighting, you know, the more powerful lights at the gym. That area, both of our gyms, the lighting is pretty bad. So that's what I hope to use it for, but I can't promise that. I need to get the letter from the state and then get some budget numbers. So we will have a motion to.
Motion. Oh,
What are we doing? I don't want to do anything we can't bring back. So are we just moving it to the next meeting? Or are we just postponing it?
Are you gonna do it at the next meeting? Is that the
I
plan?
think we'll have the numbers. What are we doing?
Like a table?
We might not, so. I just don't want to table it because then it's a
Right,
hassle to
no.
bring back.
Postpone to a further date.
Yeah, till you have the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I had a motion by Councilman Swear. You want to postpone till we have the
Yeah,
numbers?
that's fine.
I'll second.
Okay. Who did the second? You did? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas got that one. Good, thank y'all.
They gonna vote?
Please vote your machines. One breath at a time. Thank y'all very much.
You're not doing no public hearing.
Right, that's exactly why we did that. Okay, 5B.
Special ordinance number 2022-2023-19, amendment number 18, an ordinance amending the budget to reflect change order number 4 for Civic Center Marina.
Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed and a second by Councilman Dustin Swear. Is there any discussion on this item?
I think this came up last
Yes, ma'am.
meeting and I wasn't here. Can you just kind of give me a quick?
Yes, ma'am. We had some money left, and we are adding 6 piles. They could be in a future phase, as one more phase. We're gonna add 6 piles down on that end that we could pay for now. We're going to add some hose bibs, water faucets, that will be spread out along the marina so that we can wash it.
Okay, I remember that.
And we are going to add some ladders, because we
Right,
had a
so the
couple of
people who
ladders in
walk
the
up,
bid,
yeah.
but we want smaller boats to be able to have easier access.
Right,
So that's what we're talking about on this.
okay. I remember now, thank you.
No, no problem. Any other questions or comments? Then please vote your machines. Thank y'all. 5C.
Ordinance number 2023-14, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a contract with Civic Plus for software to be used by New Iberia Recreation Department and the Pepperplex.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Motion, Councilman David Broussard, and a second, Councilwoman Dee Johnson-Reed. Any discussion on this item?
So, well, one, I can't remember if we decided that this money would come out of the Pepperplex budget or Parks
We're
and
gonna
Rec.
split it,
Okay,
both budgets. So
Okay.
both budgets are gonna pay half, because Parks and Rec sees a need, thought it was neat. We'll be able to utilize it for summer programs and tournaments, just the same as the Pepperplex. And the Pepperplex can't operate without this, because it's what everybody uses. But we
Right.
will split that between the two budgets. You'll see that in the new budget, in November. That'll have to get included in both budgets.
okay. And I was looking at the master services agreement that came along with the software. Just one thing to note is, I mean, they got all these termination rules and how they can do things, but any kind of major upgrades would cost us. That
Okay.
would be an extra fee. It wouldn't be included in the
Yeah, and
maintenance.
man, technology, I know you know, but
Yeah.
it's like that in all of our PD stuff and all of our, I mean, you can't,
Yeah.
everything costs.
Well, a lot of the changes would normally come in your maintenance budget, but they
Specifically
specifically
say they
said
charge
if
you.
it's a larger one, they're gonna charge you. So just be aware that we might have to account for that in our budget.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Anybody else? Then please vote your machines. Thank you. 6A.
Resolution number 23-55, awarding contract to Minville Construction LLC for Phase 1 pool house demolition of the American Rescue Plan project entitled City Park Improvements, and further authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documentation in connection therewith.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Motion
Second.
by Councilman Dustin Swear and a second by Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed. Discussion on this item? Yes,
I just have
sir.
a comment. I mean, it's bittersweet, but at the same time, it's something that needs to happen. And I appreciate the council, all of us working together to get it down, because it is a safety hazard.
It is.
So
It's time.
that's all I have to say. It's bittersweet. I mean, my grandfather was lifeguard there, my mother, my sister. So I have a lot of history there.
Man sitting next to you.
up there.
So it's just it's bittersweet, but it's needed. So thank you.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Mayor, and this basically is the culmination of the closing of the city park pool as well, right? How long has the city park pool been closed?
My first year, so I've been here 6.5 years. The first year, we patched it together and said we're gonna try to make it go. It went for that year. It lost so much water, it was ridiculous. The second year, we actually thought we might try it again. It didn't work.
To pump them out.
And, you've got pump problems, you've got problems with the structure of the pool. It's gonna be good for what we wanna use it for, but not as a swimming pool. So, and just to remind everybody, this is an ARPA project. We're taking a little bit of it now, demolishing the pool house that's left, getting rid of all the equipment, and then later this year, we'll bid out the skate park. And we are relocating the skate park apparatus that we can from where it's located now, next to, on parish property. We'll locate that to here, and we are utilizing the pool. David's working with some professionals who do this. They are contractors who just do skate parks. David wisely suggested that we need to use them because, I was kind of trying to think of doing things with local contractors, and he was like, not on this. So you want to tell us about that real quick?
Yeah, there's a whole industry out there has bloomed over the last few decades, and these guys are engineers, architects, landscape architects, professionals that's all they do. And so they design it, they engineer it, and then they come and construct it. Think of it like playground equipment. It's very specialty, and you want playground equipment built by people who know how to build playground equipment. Same thing. So concrete is there to last, and they want to give you that kind of a product and finish. So.
Okay. So is Minville Lumber and Minville Construction two separate companies? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Minville Lumber does projects with us, and Minville Construction does. They both bid on jobs, and they both do projects, but
Are they owned by the same parent
one's
company?
based in Abbeville,
Abbeville.
and one's from Iberia.
Okay, cool.
So it's
I'm
just,
just
Same,
wondering.
same name.
just have the
Yeah.
same name.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The only reason I brought that up about the swimming pools, anything that highlights racial disparity in our communities, I want to remind people, there's still a lot of people that think, oh, they closed the West End pool. The city park is still open. It's been closed how long now?
Well,
At least, what,
5.5 years.
And both of them got closed for the same
City park
reason,
pool.
because they
Our
were
first
just
year was
old.
open.
I know, but I remember taking my grandson there for swimming lessons.
We
So,
only had it 1 year.
I only had it 1 year that I was the mayor, because we couldn't get it, we couldn't keep the water in it the second year.
okay, well.
The roof
I don't
came down,
remember
what,
exactly
2 years
what it
ago, 3 years ago?
Yes.
So,
But I know when we assessed those pools years ago, I was on Parks and Recreation Board, and we assessed the parks and the pools and all of that stuff. And then 10, 12 years ago, they were talking about this is going to eventually be closed. But the majority of the time was saying, oh, they closed the black pool. They didn't close down the city park pool. And, you know, the truth is the light, and the truth is both of the pools were old, and both of them needed closing. But the new thing is we're going to try to get a new pool, right, Ms. Ledbetter, in the Bank Park area.
Yes.
Yeah, and
That's the deal.
And you're right, because we're gonna take the property that you will enter in from Admiral Doyle, that used to be our sewer plant and our dog pound, if you're really old, and you'll come in there, and we would put the pool closer to Admiral Doyle, but it's all gonna be part of Bank Park. And that will allow us, you know, a really central location, a location for our entire community to enjoy a pool. We have it in capital outlay. I don't know that that will get funded this year, but I will continue to, you know, push for that. I think next year we're gonna just break it down and ask them for the architecture and then do the pool the following year, because I think we might have more success. Pools are very expensive. It's a
Very.
big line item. But we have time for that, but, you know, what we're doing now, I think, is something that's needed and will be a good asset to our park. And we're cleaning up a problem, and why waste a big hole? We're gonna turn it into something. I mean, I love the fact that you know, I wanna rehab and refab and reutilize anything I can, and I think it's a unique opportunity to, you know, do some cool design and get us, you know, something really neat.
Yeah. I think people just, you know, they think of pools and their time as lifeguard or swimming there,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's nostalgia. It's like,
No, it's part of our
so it's
community.
hard, yeah, it's hard to just see it go. I mean, I know when I returned home and saw Weston Park Pool was gone, I was completely shocked, because I didn't know. And I remember all the fun I had at that park, and, you know, as a lifeguard and stuff, so.
Yeah. Well, let's
I can
hope.
imagine how everybody else feels
Yeah,
about City
and
Park.
let's hope that $300,000 we built the splash pad in West End Park, and we are going to keep the splash pad in City Park. So let's hope that we continue to act as a community, and all those kids. I mean,
Yes.
let's not hope we have to tear it down,
No.
but let's hope that those kids have those same memories. I mean, that's what
Absolutely.
Park and Rec's all about. That's
Yeah.
why we do it.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Then I'd ask you to vote your machines. Thank you very much. 6B.
Resolution number 23-56, awarding contract to ENL Construction LLC for the American Rescue Plan Act project entitled Renovations to Bank Avenue Park, and further authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documentation in connection therewith.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Deidre Ledbetter and a second by Councilman Marlon Lewis. And we have good news on this project. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, we bidded this last week. This is the rebid, so we had to reject it a few council meetings ago. And it came in actually much better, we think, than the first time. So, we were about 89,000 under budget. And we were able to accept all the alternates in the project as well.
That's excellent.
So we're getting just about everything that we wanted the first time around. They just sharpened their pencils and got better prices and things like that.
That's excellent.
So it's
Yes, sir.
89,000 after you accepted alternates?
Yep,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
correct.
Yep.
So-
And our last, those three bids all have come, the last three that we've bid have all come in the money. So it does seem that things are becoming a little more predictable.
Okay.
You know, a little, the market has stabilized some. Materials are still way too high,
Yeah.
but it seems to be leveling off, and contractors seem to be a little more competitive lately, which is good. That's what we need.
So let me ask you a question in light of what we were talking about earlier. I see they're gonna do the sports floor coating and everything. And after all that's done, then we're gonna put the pickleball courts there as well.
Yes, I
Okay.
would like to see some pickleball courts there. As you know, because you're in my office today, I've been laying some out. I got all the dimensions off the National Pickleball website. I've been laying out a new pavilion that maybe we could do one day. I've been laying out wherever we could fit them in parks. Heather and I had a conversation about the old, it's called the new tennis court, but the tennis court at City Park, the concrete one,
Yeah.
that's in pretty bad shape. We, in new budget, I think she's gonna put in to resurface that and make pickleball courts there. I'd love to make them in Bank under the big pavilion. So I'm running around my little layout.
And possibly even at West End,
And
right?
if we can do them on the West End tennis court, then we
Yeah.
can still play tennis and do that too. So I now have a good layout, and it's a little more spacious. It's 5 feet more between courts and 5 feet more behind than the gym. They crammed them in sideways, and you got 3 feet to the end of the court. You really need more than that. But I think with the layouts we have, Dave and I are going to run around and look at that and try to add them everywhere we can because it's so popular. I mean.
Absolutely. I mean, we could really kind of be known for having these courts available because almost in every city, there's not enough courts for people to play.
No, I
Right
see
now, I mean, on Tuesday and Thursday nights, sometimes there are like 30 people waiting, so you have to wait because there's only 3 courts. And then at West End, in the morning, sometimes it's 20-something people, and it takes so long for you to, get a chance to play.
Yeah. No, so I want to take advantage of that while it's hot. Something we should do. Yes, ma'am.
There's an existing pickleball court in Bank Avenue Park.
Where?
It's past the tennis court. It's a little area. It's really nothing there. It's just like a little.
Just that little slab?
Yeah.
I wonder what that was. I was like, okay, what they got this here for?
That's
All right.
what.
So that was a pickleball court?
That was.
Really?
Well, we can go mark it again.
I don't know where that is.
I know where that little slab is because I was wondering what it was there for.
It's past the tennis where the tennis
nothing,
court was.
Okay, I know exactly where that was. That's where I used to play when I was a
It's
kid.
just like a little slab area.
Okay.
There's no where there's a net or anything
Oh,
like
okay,
that
so
there.
I'd
It's
have to
just
ride around
kinda-
there. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna take a ride.
It was supposed to be a pickleball, or you saying it can't be one?
No, Heather told me that it was.
Okay.
It just hasn't been used.
And it hadn't caught on at that time, right?
No, it had.
Okay.
It's been there a long time.
Just ahead of the game.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. That's where I was
that's where
going
you
with it. You've been ahead of the game.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
there's
It'll be
another
nice
one.
on the pavilion though, because the only thing
Yeah.
bad about playing pickleball outside is the sun, and the heat,
Yes.
so.
Yes.
But it's pretty shady in that area
It's
where
nice.
it is.
It's nice.
Okay, we'll have to go and take a look.
Good. Any other questions or comments? Then please vote your machine so we can start another project. Thank you. And this one we had to wait on, and the wait was good. Not always the case. 6C.
Resolution number 23-57, awarding 6-month bids for supplies.
I need a motion.
So move.
Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas, need a second.
Second.
Councilwoman Deidre Ledbetter. Any discussion about our 6 months bids?
Didn't we get something just now? I mean, okay, I see it now. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, but I think you sent us something in email that I looked at,
Same
right?
thing. Same
Okay.
thing. We just printed it out, so it's
Oh,
the same
okay,
6
cool.
months bids. Just wanted you
Okay.
to have a copy.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? Everybody's good? Then please vote your machines. We'll do that again in 6 months. Still don't know why. Well, yeah, I mean. 6D.
Resolution number 23-58, approving change order number 4 for the Civic Center Marina Phase 1 project and further authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documentation in connection therewith.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Motion, Councilwoman D. Johnson Reed, and a second, Councilman Marlon Lewis. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing and seeing none, please vote your machines. Thank you. 6E.
Resolution number 23-59, approving change order number 2 for the Louisiana Pepperplex Artificial Fuel Turf Project, and further authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documentation in connection therewith.
I need a motion. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas and the second by Councilman David Broussard. David, you want to tell us about it, just to make
Yeah.
sure?
This is
So
the kind of change orders I like.
me too.
Oh, I said that, when you weren't here the last meeting,
ones, huh?
and so
Oh, I heard you.
I
I watched
mimicked you
it.
and I said, okay, she's not here, let me ask where the money's coming from.
Yeah, this is the one I was excited about.
Yeah, so Richard came to us after 2 of the adult pitching mounds were delivered, and he wanted to change things up. They were too big for his operation. They were 6 pieces. They're like 18-foot diameter.
Wow.
And he was wanting something smaller, like a single-piece mound. So in the contract, we had 5 of them, 1 for each field. And so what we did was Richard kept 1 of them. 1 of them was bought back from Geo Surfaces. And then the other 3, they never were manufactured. They were still in the plant. So they just gave us a credit for those 4 mounds. We keep 1, the other 4, they gave us a credit for. Then we used that money and Richard bought some small mounds with. And so there's a difference of $35,000 that's being credited back to the city.
Excellent.
That we will utilize on the project for something.
Oh, I know. I mean,
Okay.
it's just nice
Yeah.
to see us
I'm just getting it out there, but yeah, we're
having a
making
change
smart
order where
decision.
we're benefiting.
And we're making a smart decision of, that fits our need.
Yes.
Any other questions,
awesome.
comments? Everybody's good? Then please vote your machines. Thank you. That's where it pays to have a good architect and a good guy running the Pepperplex. In other words, they know sports and know what we need, because we'd have bought some things we wouldn't have used. All right. 6F.
Resolution number 23-60, approving change order number 1 for City of New Iberia Concrete Repair Project, and further authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documentation in connection therewith.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Councilwoman D. Johnson Reed and Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas. Hey, man.
Hello.
Want to tell us about it?
So basically, we have to add a line item to the contract. When we started working on Catherine, well, we haven't worked Catherine yet, Sycamore and Maple off of Chain Street in the Katy and Acres area. When we took the road out, we basically just hit some really, really bad material. And we did a test hole. We dug 3 feet down and found no difference. It was continual solid clay.
Junk.
Very bad clay. We call it, we actually have a name, it's called the blue-gray clay. It's like, we call it the clay of death, because it's terrible to build on. So we got with the geotech engineer that's working on the project, and they came up with a recommendation to bridge over with some big base material. They call it a 3x1 limestone. It's about the size of your fist. Put that down in 2 layers, and then we can build on top of that, and it's working fine. We have actually poured Maple Street. We've pretty much poured the chunk of it. We just have the driveway sections to pour, and everything holding up pretty well. So this basically adds a line item. It's a unit price line item. We've estimated how much material we're gonna need for those 3 streets. It's only those streets we plan on using it on. I don't think we're gonna run into this condition on other streets, but if we do, we have a line item we can utilize. So it basically adds line item C18 for this material. We got a $36,000 $101 adder. It's at $95 a ton installed. That's for them to purchase the material and install it. And again, it's a unit price, so if we use less material, you'll get the credit. The first street, I'd estimate about 113 tons, and I think we're like right at 105 right now, and it's done, so there's a few tons under my estimate. So that'll get adjusted at the end, once the streets are completed.
Good.
So,
Questions, comments? Yes,
yeah, I
ma'am.
have a question. So the direct labor cost, is that included?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the breakdown here, this is actually a facility plan and control document, we use for change orders. It
Yeah.
makes them break it all down, equipment, labor, show wherever all their costs go, what the material cost is. So you can see, what it all breaks down to, and then divide that to the tonnage to come up with a unit price.
Okay, I was just trying to see if that was included, because there was a separate,
Yeah,
change
it-
order
it-
slip for $30,000 in total direct
Yeah.
costs, so I just wanted to make
So
sure.
that breakdown flips over, then you look at your, that comes forward, then you have their general contractor direct cost, which is a
Right.
max 15%. And then there's a performance payment bond at a 1.5%, so they can cover the cost of the performance and payment, additional performance and payment bond.
Which gets us to the 36.
36,101.
Okay, all
That
right,
gets divided by the tonnage for a unit price.
okay, all right.
Anybody else? Good. And I'd ask you to vote your machines. Thank you. All right, 6G.
Resolution number 23-61, approving change order number 3 for the City of New Iberia Asphalt Overlay Project and further authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documentation in connection therewith.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed and a second by Councilman Marlon Lewis. Tell us about this one.
Okay, so basically what this is what we call an adjustment of accounts. It's a balancing change order. So we've completed the we've completed the paid work on 35 of the 50 streets. So this balances the budget for the first 35 streets. Every street has a budget. We go in, we estimate, it comes with a dollar value, and as we go through the project, we assign those costs to that street's budget, and we track all that on a per street, per week basis, per month. So basically, this change order is going to adjust the contract from what was estimated to what was used. So you have an increase of $40,787.62 for those 35 streets. So that's basically a budget overrun of 0.8%. Now, when we tell you and when we plan these, we always tell you keep 10% for contingency because you never know what you're going to run into. That's similar situation we just approved the last change orders because we have an unforeseen condition. But that's I don't think I've ever had and this is partial because we're not complete, but I don't think I've ever had a project come in that tight.
Okay.
I've done 25 projects in 15 years, and, that's very tight, very, very tight. So I forecasted, we're gonna run a little higher than this on the final one, because we still have some streets we're working, and, I forecasted the completion for those, but I think we're only gonna be running about 2% over the whole project. So it's gonna come in very good for a very large project. I mean, 2% on almost $7 million work is pretty tight. So if they gave you the full report, that's a whole lot of accounting papers.
Yeah.
So every street has its own report. It shows you what we estimated, what we used, it gives you the variance, and that summarizes on a summary sheet at the end. But because it's a unit price project, I have to adjust the budget on every single line item that's different. So the first sheet behind the actual change order sheet has the yellow highlight. So if it's yellow, that means there's no change in this change order for that line item. But the rest of the line items have an adjustment of basically the unit cost versus bid versus used.
So should we assume that all the streets that are listed here that have their own page are complete?
They're complete what you're paying. They still may have some punch list items on them,
Okay.
but it's nothing you're gonna pay for.
I was gonna say,
Okay.
they're not finished.
Yeah, yeah. The striping's been completed, the asphalt's been laid, all those paid items are done. Now,
Okay.
you may have some cleanup to do or a repair to make. That's not for you. You're not gonna pay for that. That's already included in
In the price,
in the
okay.
price of what you're doing. So these
Okay.
35 streets will have no more charged cost.
Okay,
So they are done from a city payment standpoint.
okay, that's good, okay.
And when we finish the last 15, we'll come at the end and balance those out when we're done with all those. Because we're close, we're close to the end.
do bank.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. That's already, we're in the process, I mean, it's been patched, we still got a meal prep and overlay.
It's coming.
I'm waiting on the crews to come available. If you wanna throw tomatoes, he's standing behind me. He's sitting behind me.
So, yeah, because the other half of Ann Street isn't done.
You talking about yeah, you're talking about the asphalt section, yes.
Yes.
They patched it, it still has to be prepped and overlaid.
Yeah,
That's-
okay.
But that's all in the forecast, that, you know, that
Yeah.
we're going through.
The part you guys did a good job.
Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. It was a little more than we anticipated.
Yeah, we changed more panels, or there were times that we thought we'd cut a panel and be able to save it, and then we
Good.
couldn't, so we spent more there, but it came out good.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised when I came back from Houston that all the roadblocks, because I was getting all the complaints about people can't pass on Ann Street. I'm like, good, that's slowing them down, but that only meant that they were on Cherokee going 65, so, but it looks good.
I appreciate that. So, I know this was gonna be a year-long project. We're just past the year point. We're 13 months in. They've probably got 2 months of work left, if they can get the crews to finish. They got 33 working days left in the contract. So if they go over that, they start paying you. So, you know, you get a refund.
And I hope we're successful in October, and then we'll start the whole show again.
Absolutely.
It'd be great.
That's the asphalt project.
That's the asphalt
Yeah,
project.
Not the concrete.
Yeah, no, the concrete project.
Oh, that's gonna be-
That's gonna run through pretty much most of this year.
Yeah,
That they're just getting started on that project.
Yep.
It was a slow start. Ann Street kinda, it was difficult because they were trying to figure out how they were gonna do the job, you know, and there's a lot of houses, so they had to do a lot of skipping. So they learned a little bit on that street. They used that as their it was a tough learning curve for them, but they learned. And the other streets are going much faster. You know, we're gonna have Catherine and Maple, they'll each be done in 3 pours. You know, we poured the street, most of the street in 2 days. So they've been able to, and it's much less traffic, you know,
Yeah, I was
traffic,
gonna say,
the traffic on
that's
those
a
streets,
big-
there's no traffic on those streets compared to Ann Street. Ann Street's almost like Highway 90.
Hey, see, I told you, opportunity. Thank you, I appreciate that.
If you want to write some tickets, all you gotta do is go to a freshly overlaid street.
Exactly.
And you can write all the tickets you want.
Yeah, St. Jude too. All of a sudden, I mean, people are so excited that the street's fixed that they're flying through there.
Lombard too.
Yes, and Field.
So again, this particular change order at hand,
Barbershop.
it adds to the contract, but I mean, it's within what we set aside to make sure we have enough to cover.
Yeah.
And remember, we, set aside that last $1 million and said, we're gonna settle up on everything before we decide, what we do with that little money that will be left.
Right.
And I'm glad we did, because you're gonna run into issues, but it seems like our projections, we should be
Close.
Asphalt's gonna run in very, very close, but concrete's gonna probably overrun.
Yeah.
The first 2 streets we've overran.
Yeah.
Ann Street was 20% over.
Yeah.
Park was a little over. Sycamore and Maple, those are coming in pretty close, because, I mean, they're almost a completely rebuild. So we'll try to recoup some of that on the back end, with some, hopefully we don't run into more issues, but, we have some opportunity in the project to save some money here and there. So, but we're just getting started, so it's hard to forecast that project, because, we're only the 3rd street in.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
any questions on the change order? I know there's a lot of paperwork, but it's mostly a lot of accounting, just so we can
John,
balance and
you're on
track.
top of your game, buddy.
So, any other questions, problems, concerns?
I think we're good. No other questions or comments?
Glad to see Parkview started, that's all.
Oh, that's right, they started that one.
Yeah. Good. Well, then, ask you to please vote your machines. Thank you, man.
Thank y'all.
All right, where are we? 7A.
Introduction of special ordinance number 2022-2023-20, amendment number 19, an ordinance amending the budget to reflect purchase of dump truck carried over from the 2022 fiscal year and setting for public hearing on June 6, 2023.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Motion, Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas, a second, Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed. Is there any discussion on this purchase of a dump truck?
And that is for Public Works,
No, that's for sewer, right?
sewer?
The dump truck is for sewer.
Sewer.
Okay.
Yep. It was in last year's budget, and then we held it off, and
Right.
so now we're bringing it.
Okay.
Yep. Joe's gonna probably ask for one next year, but
Yeah.
one at a time.
You'll see the one around, you'll get him.
Yeah, he's gonna want one. Any questions or comments? Then I'd ask you to please vote your machines. Thank you very much. 7B.
Introduction of Special Ordinance Number 2022-2023-21, Amendment Number 20, and ordinance amending the budget to reflect revenue for Bayou Teche Museum Phase 3 project and setting for public hearing on June 6, 2023.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Councilwoman D. Johnson Reed, and a second by Councilman Dustin Swear. Any discussion on this item?
So capital outlay money came from the state to
This
give to
is
them?
the final phase that, you know, they gave us a letter. We didn't get everything else yet, but we got a letter on this that we could proceed.
Okay,
And so this is the last phase that we committed to really 4 years ago, maybe 4.5 years ago. It takes, you know, a while, and it's been broken into 3 phases, and but this is the last final phase of the museum. And remember, the city owns the building, the museum runs it separately, the museum is responsible for exhibits, they're responsible for their labor and O&M inside the building, we're responsible for the building, and all of the money ran, you know, through us.
okay.
Yes, sir.
I know they got a plan for it already. It's already, what are they planning on doing this next capital?
This is filling in if you go look at the building, the big addition went up last time, but it's not finished. So now they go in that shell, they build the restrooms, they finish out the second floor. There's some work in the existing building on the second floor, as well as the new shell, second floor. So this finishes off there, you know. What you see out there won't encompass any more space. It'll just all get finished and filled out.
So it's mostly work inside of the building?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The shell was put up in phase 2, and then now they go in and finish.
Okay.
Yep. That's a good thing. Any other discussion? And I'd ask you to please vote your machines. Thank you very much. All right, 8A.
Ordinance number 2023-15, a recommendation to approve a zoning change as requested by Bobby J. Gerard of 919 Parkview Drive for Lot 37, Bailey subdivision from R1 to C3, as more fully appears from the plat of survey recorded at miscellaneous book 8, folio 431, entry number 3037, records of Iberia Parish, Louisiana.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Motion
Second.
by Councilman Dustin Swear and a second by Councilwoman DeeDee Johnson-Reed. Do we have any discussion on this item? Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I spoke to Mr. Gerard, a few days ago. Kind of gave me a breakdown of what he was doing. Basically, the property right next door, he actually assumed that it was commercial all along since when he purchased the land, I think 5 years ago maybe. So he wants to take the house and tear that down, make a parking area, actually enhance that property next door because he actually owns a shopping center. So he's looking at expanding and those kind of things. So basically, I believe it went through planning and zoning, no issues or anything like that. So just wanted to let y'all know what the deal was with what was going on with this particular property.
Okay.
So
Is that,
Cool. Yes, sir.
is that where Rudy's or Derwin's?
correct. So they had the shopping center where Rudy's was at one time. So right next door to the right of it, there's an old house that's not even, I don't think anyone even stays in there. So he wants to tear that down and enhance the property that it sits on. So
that property will be the parking lot?
correct. It'll be parking, and I think he wants to try and do some other things with that property as well. So
Okay. 'Cause I
it's
saw
pretty much
something
to
where he
enhance
said
the
he was,
shopping center that he has.
yeah, he said something about opening a bakery or something like that in the paperwork.
I think it was something with his daughter, maybe. Maybe Miss Jane might have some more.
I mean, I was reading through it and I
insight.
thought I saw something about him opening a bakery or something
Okay.
like that.
He owns Parkview Plaza, and so the coffee shop and bakery would be inside the plaza.
Okay, okay, all right, that
Correct.
makes sense, okay.
Yeah.
So it's basically for parking and enhancing the property. So if it's getting ready to abandon house.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, it's good.
Because when I saw the house, I'm like, well, maybe that's where he's gonna put it, but it sounds like it's in the
It
actual
is.
other thing.
So he's
Okay,
not-
cool.
He's not building a new building on this property?
No.
Just
He's-
parking?
Right.
Is he gonna pave it?
I don't think so, but I'm not certain.
Okay,
I think it would just be a few spots overfill.
okay,
So he's still looking, and trying to estimate what he's gonna need there.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Cool. Then I'd ask you to please vote your machines. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Okay, now I need to do an expansion. You have in front of you, and this, first I'll need a motion to expand the agenda, but what it's about, I'll just tell you what it's about first. It's the AC work that's done, and a little money will be left, and some painting that we could quickly squeeze in at Sear Gates Gym. So although we have more money coming, I don't want to give any money back. It's like $17,000 that we can throw at it. So first thing I need is a motion to expand the agenda. I had a motion by Councilman Marlon Lewis, and I need a second. Second, Councilman Dustin Swear. So please vote your machines to allow us to expand the agenda. Thank you all very much. What's that?
It just stopped. That's because it's the deadline. That's why. I gotta say why.
Okay, and the reason I'm expanding, thank you. The purpose of this expansion is to carry forward funds not expended in the 2022 related to Act 119, as these funds must be expended by June 30th of this year. And we know that, so we're moving quickly. Okay, so now you can read our new ordinance and get a motion on it.
Introduction of special ordinance number 2022-2023-22, amendment number 21, an ordinance amending the budget to reflect outstanding funds and expenses for interior work related to Act 119 and setting for public hearing on June 6, 2023.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, so this is a motion for public hearing? Yes.
Motion for public hearing.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas, is second.
Second.
Second, Councilwoman D. Johnson Reed, thank you. Is anyone here to speak on this item in this public hearing? Hearing and seeing none, I need a motion to close.
So moved.
Motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Gonsalas, Councilwoman D. Johnson Reed, thank you. So we had no public comment. Now I need a motion to vote on the item. Correct?
Close the public hearing, you did that?
Yeah, we closed it.
Motion.
Second.
Councilwoman D. Johnson Reed, Councilman Marlon Lewis. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing and seeing none, please vote your machines. Thank you very much. And we're just trying to make a deadline. That's all this is about. I appreciate that. Who wants to give back $17,000 to the state? That just rubs me the wrong way, so. Thank you. No, sir. I have.
Question about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we did the public hearing and all, you just want to scratch that after 119, Act 119?
You're right.
What we did?
No, we still have to publish it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
'cause
the public,
now we
okay.
have to publish it, and then it comes back to the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just expanded to try to cut out one meeting because of the time frame. I gotta get people started.
Yeah.
So it needs to come back.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. Cool, so now we move on to item 9A.
Kevin Zarang to present budget to actual report for November 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm hoping. Good evening.
So before we start, any questions? All right. If everyone's okay, if we do it in total like we've done in the past, you can stop me when you have questions.
Sure.
Okay.
We're doing this through the end of March, which is 5 months, leaving us at 41.67% of our budget. General fund budgeted revenue, 24.9. We're at 11 million, putting us at 44.01% of our revenue. Expenses budgeted 29.5. Year to date, we're at 10.9, leaving us at 36.94 of our expenses. And that is due because we still have some capital projects to complete. Parks and Recreation, revenue of 1.6, year-to-date is 1.02, putting us at 63.74%, and that is because the ad valorem revenue was recognized all at one time, and that's majority of their income, not all of it. Expenses of 1.6, year-to-date is 490,000, putting them at 30.19%. Waiting on some capital projects to complete.
Okay.
Come on, quick question. is there a specific reason why Parks and Rec's only at 30% of their revenue expended so far at month?
That's expenses.
I know expenses, I mean expenses.
Yeah,
Yeah, he just said that, yeah.
Oh, you did?
They're waiting, yeah, they're waiting for some of the capital projects to
some
start,
capital projects to complete.
to complete.
Okay. Man, okay.
Per y'all request, last meeting, I have changed the titles of the sales taxes.
Thank you.
Excellent,
You're
thank you.
welcome. The first one is the 19 sales tax fund. We budgeted at 10.4 million, we're at 4.2, putting us at 40.08% of the budget.
It's a little below where we should be.
Yes, ma'am. Expenses of 17 million, we're at 7 million, leaving us at 41.64. And what we do on that account, we're simply transferring things as we have monthly transfers. So it should be done equally each month. The next one is the Police and Firemen's Public Safety Fund. Revenue of 4.1 million, we're at 1.7 million, putting us at 39.89%. Expenses of 4.149, year-to-date is 1.7, putting us at 41.62%.
So, quick question for Freddie. I mean, I know we're not that far below what we had projected, but you think that we're gonna catch up on some of these taxes? I mean,
I'm hopeful. I
okay,
mean, that's not, I don't have a crystal ball, much less, more than anybody else, but we've caught up before in previous years, so I am hopeful that, we will catch up. I'm
Okay.
watching it, believe me.
okay. I mean, we don't have the previous years to compare it to, so that's why I'm just trying to, I mean, is this normal where this time of year it might be a little lower, and then we catch up later on during the summer and stuff like that?
And the summer's always slow.
Oh,
So
okay,
I feel it's going down a little bit sooner. But June, July, and August are always slow, and then fall, we really seem to pick up speed and catch up. But that's pretty much what we've done in
okay,
other years.
all right.
So what
It's
we
just
had
something to keep
done-
an eye on.
When we did the budget, we had put in a budget of 4% growth. So we are trending close to that. We're just below 4% in our year-to-date analysis we do.
Okay,
Okay. And if that amount drops, then we'll change the amount that's being transferred out.
okay.
Because we can only transfer, per the audit, we can only transfer out what we
What we,
receive,
yeah, what we
plus the
receive.
fund balance.
Okay,
The next one is the Highway 14 TIF. We were budgeted at 379,000. We're at 138,000, putting us at 36.4. Expenses of 511,000. We're at 209,000, putting us at 41.01. On Spanish Trail TIF District, budgeted revenue 24 million. We're at 24,000, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're at 13,000, putting us at 55.89%. Expenses, 213, we're at 86.79, putting us at 40.75% of our expenses. The Pepperplex TIF, budgeted revenue of 723,000, actual is 409, putting us at 56.59% of our revenue. Expenses of 723,000, actual is 264, putting us at 36.6%. Pepperplex, budgeted revenue 4 million, we're at 2.7 million, putting us at 65.54%. The expenses of 4.4 million, we're at 3.1, putting us at 71%. And the reason those numbers are high is we are transferring in the funds from the taxes to cover expenses as they're incurred, the bond as we receive them. And the expenses are high because of the capital outlay was being all done at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Yeah, our project.
okay.
Public Works Fund, budgeted revenue of 3.6 million. We're at 1.9, putting us at 52.98%, and that's due for the way we recognize the ad valorem tax. Expenses is 3.5, we're at 1.2, putting us at 34.46%. And we have some equipment that we're waiting on to be delivered so we can pay for it.
Okay.
Garbage fund, 4.2 million in revenue, we're at 1.5 million, putting us at 37.17% of revenue. Expenses of 4.2, and we're at 1.7, putting us at 41.81% of expenses. Section 8 vouchers, 1.4 million budgeted revenue, we're at 683, putting us at 48.39% of the revenue. We have 1.4 million in expenses. Year to date, we're at 656, putting us at 46.18%. Wastewater fund, 10 million budgeted revenue. We're at 4.3%, putting us at 42.54% of the revenue. Expenses of 5.7, we're at 1.9, putting us at 34.29%.
Is there any reason why the expenditures are so low in this area, wastewater? I mean, we're kind of.
We got a lot of projects that we are in the process of starting.
Okay.
But they take a long time. We have budgeted the 11.9 million, and I know that we won't spend all of that this year. I would like to, but it's not moving fast enough to make that happen. And
Okay.
that's part of it.
Okay. Just checking.
Any questions?
And I'll just say on the little bit of tax difference, that's why, as you saw from our auditors, we have a healthy reserve. In other words, when you begin to do capital projects, to take limited, but to take some risk in investing back in your community like we should be doing, it's nice to do it when you have some reserves, because we're not gonna, be too reactionary to a small fluctuation.
Right.
But if something does go wrong that we have to pull back, it is wise to know that we have funds to back us up.
Right.
And at that point, then we just slow the train.
Yeah.
Cool?
Train ain't slowing yet.
No, sir, it's not. Thank you, Evan.
You're welcome.
It ain't slowing yet. All right, now we got a good one. 10A.
Discuss potential ordinance regarding adjudicated properties within the city of New Iberia.
We went on a field trip. We went to Lafayette. A group of y'all came with me, and we went to look at how they handle their adjudicated property. And before we go too far with any of this, we thought we would bring this as a discussion item, as we've done a few other times, to get everybody's feedback that they would be interested in pursuing some of the way that Lafayette handles their properties, before we just vote on an ordinance that turns something out that we get to the end of the day and it doesn't have support. We only had that happen once, so we learned a lesson. So that's kind of the point of this. Well, I mean, such is life, That's, you don't know till you know. So that's the point of this. So I'll open it up to discussion.
So the other point is that, and what I guess the public needs to understand is that we have a lot of adjudicated properties in New Iberia. And so we're really trying to figure out how to solve that problem. So that's the reason for the field trip. We're trying to come up with some better solutions and,
Jeff, you had your hand up?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll just outline kind of what we've talked about. The field trip was to Lafayette, and Lafayette has a set of ordinances that they've adopted to set up a system. And they don't use Civic Source to deal with adjudicated property. So they have their own in-house person. And he's very good. He's very cooperative. I think he will help us. It's a good system. It's not simple, and it's not cheap, but I think it's going to be a lot more effective than what we have now. So we have the ordinance for you guys to look at that has processes in it. And generally speaking, if people want property, if they want to purchase it, or in some circumstances, if they want it to be donated to them and they qualify, then there's a process that they have to go through that has some obligations. And the process eliminates the rights of the tax debtor who's lost the property, and the person can acquire the property and then move forward, get it back on the tax rolls, and we won't be having, hopefully so much property. When we talk to the guy, they probably spend about $60,000, $60,000 a year on his salary. I asked how many properties they moved in a year. He said about 50. You know, so you can see there's cost right there associated with this. And I'm sure he has space, I'm sure he has benefits, I'm sure there are other expenses that go along with it. But take a look at this system. It's going to require a number of different things. The first thing is it's going to require a good ordinance and a good system. They have done, it looks to me like they've done a really nice job. It's detailed, it's a lot of process, but I think it's going to meet the legal requirements, and I think it outlines what you do in different situations when you have these things come up. Second, we're going to have the cooperation of other local governments. I know Lafayette's a little simpler because they're consolidated, but they've also got some outside agencies too. And basically, you know, nobody wins when these things just sit there. So hopefully we can get that. We'll need to appropriate some funds. You guys will need to do that because this is going to cost some money.
I gotta hire somebody.
And the fourth thing, I have my little list, is you got to have the right person.
Right.
You got to have somebody who cares about it, somebody who's careful about it, somebody who can deal with the public and deal with the details. So getting the right person is going to be difficult. Hopefully you get somebody who has some experience in their own business or someone who has experience in courthouse work or something like that, because you need somebody who runs it, who's going to respect that process. We're going to have a lot of help from the council members, because one of the issues that we have with adjudicated properties, with junk, with demolitions and all that is we have properties that people don't want, and they don't want them and they don't have value, and that's why they get treated this way. Lafayette's got some advantage. They have whole subdivisions that got adjudicated that people are coming in and taking over. We don't have that. You know, we have things scattered down up and down the street. Some streets have a lot. But we're going to need the council people to get out there and promote this thing and get people to come forward and want the properties. Lafayette said that this is application driven, which means they're counting on people coming to them and saying, I want to do this, this, and this. So it's going to take some work on the part of council people and others just to generate that demand that'll make it worth it. There's some obligations on the part of the people who want the properties, because if you look at the ordinance, and I encourage y'all to read it, they have to do some things. I mean, they have to put signs up, they have to publish things in the newspaper, they've got to file documents in the courthouse, they've got to file an affidavit to establish they've done certain things on the property. So it's going to take some cooperation and some education. And I don't know that local attorneys get involved. They could, but these people are going to need some guidance in how to do this. So hopefully we can start with what Lafayette does and maybe put together some educational material too. So I think it's a good plan. I think we need something better than what we got. We know that.
Yes.
Because what we got is not working. Lafayette doesn't have nearly as many properties, I don't think, as we do.
No, we
Right.
have over 600, and you know they were talking 3-something, 400.
Yeah.
So we have more properties and less demand. You know,
Exactly.
Less demand, and you know.
In a smaller city.
Yeah, and it really, it comes down to, you know, we complain about certain property owners who purchase things and let them run down. But part of the problem that we have is nobody else wants them, you know, and that's the market. So, yeah, we're gonna have to encourage people to do this. There are some priorities in the ordinance for people who acquire property. The first priority is redemption. That is, the person who lost the property has the right to get it back within a limited amount of time, which is only fair. The second priority is governmental use. In some cases, the third priority is a neighbor, you know, who's done some maintenance on the property. There are lower priorities as you go down. They don't want people to be, you know, buying these things up for rentals, but if that's all you got, that's all you got. So read the priorities in the statute and in the ordinance. My suggestion is we borrow everything that we can from them that fits, and not try to reinvent this thing. They spent a lot of time. Some attorney made some money putting this thing together. And I need a new truck, but you don't need to get me to redo it. So, so please take a look at this. Take a look at the priorities. Realize it's going to be a team effort, because we're going to have some staff people. You know, an administrator here that we're going to have to hire. We're going to have people who want the properties, and you know, there's some work for council people and others to get people to come forward. So take a look at it. I think we have just a copy of what Lafayette's done, and you can see all the detail in it, and all the work that they did to put this together. So I think it could work, and I think Lafayette will be helpful, because we said, look, you know, we're gonna need some forms, we're gonna need some guidance, we're gonna need some process from you, and we need to do something different from what we're doing now.
All right.
So take a look at it, folks.
Yep, and it wouldn't go to a new budget because we're gonna have to put in for, you know, a salaried person, we're gonna have to put in for, it's not gonna be easy, but if we brought it now and started talking about it, that gives us time to
Right,
put
for
our
the
own
budget.
spin on it, or use exactly what's there, you know? Change the minimum amount, I agree with that, and then that gives us time to think about new budget and think about how we might pull this off. I mean, even if it's January that we're ready to say go, you know, in November, we would put some money in the budget, and if we're still working through how we do it, finding the right person, I don't want to hurry and get the wrong person where it fails from the beginning.
Right.
But it is something that we should consider, because Hillary's in the process of remapping. I'll be giving you that as soon as I get it. I need a little cooperation from Civic Source on some things. But she's remapping all the properties so we know exactly, you know, at a point in time, how many we have and where they're located. But, and then you can't fool with them for so much time that we have to hold them up to 5 years, and then we can act on them. But I'll have all that sorted out, but this is a good time to, you know, get this to y'all so y'all could begin researching, and we can continue to talk about this.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And it's got some, you know, it's got some expenses, it's got some burdens, it's got some duties. We got a lot of things that we're doing that nobody here has done before. You know, look at this budget. You got things like the Pepperplex. You never saw that before.
Nope.
So it does, but I don't think it's unlike the world famous, you know, garage sale ordinance we have.
Yeah.
I don't think there's pushback. I don't think there's not public opposition. You know, it's not that kind of thing.
No.
It does add to the size of our governmental operation.
It does. It
No.
does. We'll burn up a few of those 200 and something days that we have, but it's okay. If you're providing a service to people and giving them, we're not a bank. We are supposed to give money back, and this is a major issue that is holding us back, and that will only continue to downgrade our neighborhoods where this is happening, and it is such a burden if you live next to it.
Yes.
So it's money well spent.
Well, it's a spiral. You got to break
It's a
that spiral.
Yeah.
And
you
this
put
is
it back
a
in-
way.
Good way to put
No,
it.
so you can put it back into commerce, so now you're gonna get revenue from the new owner.
Just get responsibility.
Yeah.
So just, I mean, they're gonna start paying taxes on it, so we'll start getting revenue again. Right now, we ain't getting anything.
Yep.
But it, you know, for 10 or 20, it's not worth it. You know, we got to have a volume.
Right.
On a best case scenario, implementation of a program like this, 6 months, 8 months, if it's, you know, from start to finish, first
Oh,
one.
you mean to
Yeah.
give away a piece of property or
Yeah.
sell a piece of property?
Right. With this new ordinance, because I'm gonna read it, I haven't read it yet, so.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it'll take long, you know, once you get a person in place. You know, but getting the appropriation and getting the right person in the job. I don't know how long it takes to start up an office like this. I don't know. I mean, it's not a long time.
No, I'm saying, once
Yeah.
we get the office set up and we start the program, you know, possibly 6
mean-
months, we could have the.
Well, it's gonna take months to do publication signs, all that kind of stuff, because you do have I mean, you're taking away a person's property. So you do have to give them a certain time, and it's sometimes it's 60 days, sometimes it's 6 months, to redeem the property, so.
So my question is, the 600 adjudicated properties we have currently, we have done a bunch of work on them currently, correct? Or not a whole lot?
We haven't done this work.
Okay, so this is, we have to.
Brand new.
Brand new, we got.
No, because what we're doing right now,
Civic Source, just when they get a sale, they do the work. I mean,
yeah.
it's-
So we're really kind of, I guess the big picture is, we have a contract with Civic Source where they will handle these things if people want the properties. So Civic Source charges them a bunch of money because they're familiar with the process, they help write the laws. They charge them a bunch of money to do a lot of this process, but it doesn't start until somebody wants the property.
Okay.
So, you know, we're gonna be starting, you know, with the application just like they do. And a lot of that cost is shifted to the person who wants the property. you know, but that's, but Lafayette does not use Civic Source for their adjudicated properties at all.
Dustin, you had your hand up?
Yeah,
Councilman Sweet.
thank you,
I always do that to everybody, I'm sorry. Councilman Sweet.
thank you. So good points, but we also didn't mention, yes, it's gonna cost us some money, it's gonna cost the people some money, but we're gonna be able to free up people like Jimmy and in Public Works to go and do other things they need to be doing besides fighting with these adjudicated properties, so.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. If we could make it go, at least for a while, and there'll be a sweet spot.
Right.
We'll spend a lot of money on the front end, and then we'll start moving some stuff, and it will more than pay for itself for what we're not doing. And then, at some point, you know, the inevitable is gonna happen that it'll start reversing itself, and it'll start costing us more because some properties maybe aren't moving. But Lord, but the gap between, look at what we can accomplish.
Yeah,
Do we know how many of the properties we've had that have been adjudicated for 5 years or more?
Yes, we have them on that map, and they're all color-coded. I can't spit it out immediately. I know 100, I don't know why I remember this, 116 were trailers, and I want to say 200, and some over 200 we could move on immediately, and the rest of them were spread out between 2 and 5 years. Now, the last time we did the map was 2 years ago, so it will actually shift on us, and we'll have a new count, but we have plenty enough potential targets out there to move on
the
quick.
harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
Yeah, thank you.
Like it says in the good book.
We'll be able to tackle half of them
Oh my God.
just with this
Yeah, you would.
push.
Yeah.
That's a win-win right there.
Oh, a third. I mean, you know, when you look at what we've sold so far, we started with Civic Source when I got here, and the low-hanging fruit went quick. So the first year or two, we had some commercial properties that were some real deals. We had some houses that were in pretty good shape. So, you know, we might have done 10 immediately, and then it slacked off. But now, I mean, Lane, what are we doing? A couple of years? You know, at best case. So it has slowed down to a trickle. So yeah, if we get a new program with some new energy and some new people involved, and we all do some things, we can put it down.
So if we're only doing 2 a year and
That's
we
just
have
my guess, but it's-
600, I'm just saying, no, but like, okay, so I'm doing the math in my head right now. I'm brainstorming with you. So we're doing 2 a year, we have 600 on the books. That's only gonna grow.
Yeah.
That number could keep
Exactly.
growing, and then we're gonna be doing 2 next year, 2, 3.
Years, we'll have this place cleaned out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay.
You do
That's
50,
the
you do
investment
50 like
is-
Lafayette, you
Yeah.
still got a long way to go.
Oh yeah. But we see, you know, some light.
We can see some light pretty.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
And
Yes, ma'am.
possibly even help some neighborhoods.
I did want to, I went to the meeting,
Yes, ma'am.
and before the meeting, I looked into some things about motor own and different innovative ideas to try to work with these types of properties, because we do have quite a lot of them. One thing that we can do if we go with doing the ordinance, and I hope we do, we can set what we want to do. You know, we can say, if you buy the property, then you have to maintain it, of course, you know, unless it gets taken back. So we can stipulate what we want. So it's not like somebody can buy the property and then say, make a junkyard on it. So we can, you know, put in some rules where that kind of thing wouldn't happen.
That's in this ordinance too. Mm-hmm. They have that in the ordinance. They even have in the ordinance where the person has to be domiciled in Lafayette Parish. So we can prevent people coming from other places coming in to buy some of this property. And, you know, there's lots of opportunities for nonprofits, you know, and, you know, all these other groups to kind of maybe even take some of this land and then turn it, you know, if they're Choto, build some houses to rebuild some of these communities.
We do it by ordinance, so even if we adopt exactly what they have and we start, we've accomplished a lot.
Right.
And then whatever we do, remember, this body can always undo. So
Right.
down the road, we hit a roadblock and we hit a slump, and we said, okay, we don't have anybody else investing here, we might need to expand out, you know.
Exactly.
You could end up, I don't want to restrict it because our market is much different than Lafayette.
Absolutely.
We don't have a lot of investors, we don't have a lot of people who are right now beating the door down to buy this property. So if we leave it loose at first and we need to tighten it up, we could. by the reverse, if we make it too tight, we're gonna end up, missing out maybe and not moving property. So it's gonna kind of be a balancing act to figure out what's the rhythm for New Iberia that we can actually entice people to do this.
We might need
Agreed.
some momentum before we get picky.
Yeah.
No, I know, I just feel like we
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
we should probably try to stick with the people more locally in Louisiana before we go outside, because what we're trying to do is rebuild, at least I know in my community, I'm trying to rebuild my community. So to have some people come in and buy this property and put more rental houses that they don't maintain is not a solution. So that's why I'm saying the priority list that Lafayette has in place, I think is really good, because it actually gives priority to the right people, at least in my opinion.
And,
And if we gotta check down the list and get to number 7 before it works, no offense, that's what we gotta do. In
Right.
other words, we'll try,
Yeah.
and that's what priority
But
is all
that,
about.
yeah, exactly. I mean, if they're like the last
You
thing,
end up having, you might have to go to that,
exactly,
lower
but
priority.
at least we've given all of those other groups a chance to
First
do
shot.
this first. And that's what's most important to me, because that helps to rebuild the community.
Yeah, yeah.
Because outside people don't have to care about what happens to the property in our community.
and
Yes, ma'am.
one thing we really should focus on is the neighbors in the neighborhood. People that live adjacent to such properties could be very interested in, owning that
That's right.
property. Because oftentimes they take care of it anyway. Or at least a large section, so it doesn't overflow onto
Yeah.
theirs before the city has to come and cut it. So that's a good place, hopefully, that we can definitely start, with the neighbors.
And keep in mind, though, if we move on the grant money to demolish some more houses, we could create some more of those properties, so, yeah. So it's a good time for us to be talking about this and putting this on the books.
In discussion, we're gonna talk about the demo stuff.
Okay.
Cool. Well, this is good. Anybody else on this tonight?
Well, I thought the meeting went really well with Lafayette, and I thought
Did
they
you?
were
They were-
more than willing to help us.
More
I
than
mean,
gracious.
yeah,
I mean, they
it was
offered us
amazing.
whatever you need, we'll help you any way we can, and I really feel
Yeah.
it was genuine.
Yeah, I do too.
So take it, look
Very
at it,
open.
it will be coming back. We will, bring it to the ordinance. We already kind of started talking about it at the ordinance committee. But, what's that? It's not a committee, it's a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
My bad.
the purpose of this discussion is to see if you actually want, the ordinance, meeting to address this.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, so that's kind of where I was heading, so.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay that we
She's making sure you get
continue
that
down this
decision.
road
Yes.
of discussing this and we have meetings about it?
Yeah.
With everybody?
Fine with it.
Okay, good. So we got what we needed and now we can, have a meeting. Good, thank you. Cool.
I'm good as long as I'm invited to the meeting.
Okay, well, you're invited to the meeting. It was just that easy. And thank you. I want all the input I can get. Unfortunately, I can only have a set number at a time, but that's a good thing. That's why we work. All right, now move on to Councilman's remarks, and I'll start on your side, Councilman Lewis.
All righty. Well, Freddie, as I think I missed an opportunity earlier as we talked during the week about the passing of Mr. Michael Bell.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Our great community leader.
I know. What a loss.
Me and Freddie talked about giving him a moment of silence during public comment.
Because he always had
Yeah.
something.
Always there on
Yeah.
public comment.
He was a fixture for years.
He was a fixture
He's
for
been
years.
since our first council. I mean,
Since I've been around, that's a long time.
He would truly be missed. He was a fighter. We know Felicity was his thing.
I know,
Another
and he's
thing,
not going to see Felicity's land, and that really broke my heart when I saw that, because I thought about him when we changed the name from Fulton Street, and I started thinking about our history, and I said it needs to be Felicity's land. Felicity was right across the street.
Yeah.
Sorry for that.
I also learned about Vivian Thomas from Mr. Michael Bell. I think Vivian Thomas, right?
Yes.
The open heart surgery,
Yeah,
Yes.
he solved the blue baby syndrome.
blue baby syndrome.
Yep.
You know, he was a historian, he was a community activist, and always getting us, you know, pumped up to do the work. And I, you know, he's gonna be missed. I definitely want to get a condolences to the family. And you know when the services are?
So it's Saturday, and I'm gonna read the resolution.
Yeah, I signed the resolution
Thank
today.
you. Yeah,
Thank
Ms. Sandra gave it to me.
It was really good.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I just thought about Mr. Mike. I really wanted to.
No, and I wanted to do that, but
Yeah.
man, when you gave me the idea, I said, dude, that's the
How old
goal.
was he?
Huh?
How old was he?
Mr. Mike was
71.
71.
Yeah.
Knocking on 72.
Yeah.
Oh, we got some good things coming. I guess you can touch on it.
Go ahead.
Parks and Recreation with this summer. I'm just saying, tell them to watch out. We coming.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna say. Watch out. We coming. We coming for your kids. We
Yeah.
coming to help save.
I'll tell you say that.
We coming to save your kids. They know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, they've been crying for us to help, and we got some things in place.
We are putting some things in
We're
place.
putting some things in place.
Yep.
One more thing. I ran into this lady. I don't know. Can you catch this? You got it? Thank you. I ran into this lady in the bank today, Miss Joy Lachele. I never met her before. We went to middle school together, as we found out, but we didn't know each other. She was promoting. She was in the bank, asking the bank could she hang up a flyer, and I told her, I said, you know, the city. I saw a lot of people come to the city and promote their events. This is Games Across Acadiana, Acadiana's ultimate scavenger hunt. And this is a fundraiser for, I think, Miles Perret. And it's from June 2nd to June 17th. I told her I would announce it. She was excited when she found out that you can come to the council and request to talk about your event, especially if it affects the community. And I see our guys. I looked at the sponsors. I see one of our local companies is sponsoring. That's Norris International. I said, well, that should be appropriate. So, one more time.
Good stuff. Bring in a prop next time.
Show and tell.
That's all I have for tonight.
Yep, thank you.
Since we're talking about houses and dungeon houses, College Park, Elm Street, the dungeon house. I'm hearing that it might be coming, the family has one more shot. They have about 15, 20 days. Maybe I want to.
I'll be happy to talk to you about that outside the meeting.
Okay, but they've, the neighbors, boy, they've been on my BUT hard. And even one, maybe they gotta go through you at the same time, you can give me a reference on what's happening on Bank and Doris. Our chiropractor, the house on Bank and Doris,
Well, let me.
the old bro house.
Okay, let
He's
me
been through
check
the
on
legal.
all that.
So there's 2 or 3 things that we trying to just, we voted on it. The people think we lying about it, but
Well.
it's still on the books to get moving.
Okay.
So I appreciate your help. I hope it's coming down. So it's been 12 years. 13 years we've been waiting for this move right now. Because the lady finally got out the house. We had meetings. And the meeting was about, we can't do anything till she's out. So I hope something's on the move.
I'll talk to you after the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Just briefly, just congratulations to all the seniors that are graduating this week. You know, I'll be at Westgate tomorrow night. I know several individuals, and all I can ask is all these young entrepreneurs coming out, please consider staying home and working for your city and contributing back. Congratulations to not only to the kids, but to the parents as well. Tricycle races a couple weekends was a big success in City Park. I was there, attended, watching. Also, mental run was great. Had 400-some people. I ran in that race. Looked for you, Dee Dee, but you wasn't there. Huh?
I was in Houston taking care of my aunt.
We ran well. We did well. It was a great turnout downtown for both events. You know, more community events in the city like this or what builds a community and builds camaraderie and fellowship. So look forward to more to comes. But yes, so just a big shout out to all our seniors this week, and be safe.
How did you place in the 5K?
Cool.
Third out of 54.
Because they was betting that you would win. You did good.
Gee, they came in from Lafayette and beat me.
Didn't you win last year, though? Were you
I won
first
last
place in
year.
your,
Yeah,
'cause I was first place in my
Yes,
group
yes, I
too,
did.
my age group.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted my Neighborhood Watch people to know that we're not going to have Neighborhood Watch in May or June because of renovations at the Slyman. So we have a couple of months of vacation, and then we'll start again. And hopefully, Councilman Gonzalez may start and be a part of this other run walk that we're going to have for our national community health initiative. And it's going to be on June the 24th, starting at Bank Avenue Park and going 5K. And it's going to be a walk run, so.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, so I'll have more information to pass out to my fellow council members to come out and join us for that initiative. And I think that's all I have for tonight.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm going to miss that one too. I'll be in Africa. So I want to say to all the people that came to the home buyer training class that it was a huge success, and I look forward to talking to you guys and helping you to apply for mortgages. We had about 36 people signed up, but we had 20 people actually show up. And I was told that that was a great number because usually it's like 5 or 6. So we were really excited about that. Also, I went to a meeting this morning where, in addition to us coming for your children with Parks and Rec, IPAL is going to have a camp in July for the kids. So go to the website, take a look. If you got some kids who are, artistic or who might be interested in acting, that might be a fun camp for them. I think it's like $100 per kid. Also, Downtown Neighborhood Association is going to have a fundraiser soon, and I think it's starting now. It's called Split the Pot. The raffle tickets are $2 each, and for whatever they collect, whoever wins gets half the pot. And I'll be coming to all my council members for, some donations. And then I just want to let District 5 know that very soon we're going to be announcing a CERT training, and we're going to be asking people to come out. And there's going to be a CERT pack that you'll be able to walk away, like an emergency kit that you'll walk away with from this training. So, look for more information in the next few days, and we hope as many people in District 5 as possible will come out and get this training so that we'll be prepared for hurricane season and beyond. I'd also like to say congratulations to all the graduates. I have cousins graduating from Westgate, but they can only invite 5 people, so I can't go. Yeah, I didn't make the cut. And then I also want to remind everybody about GPAL's upcoming gala, which is happening June 16th. And you can go to their website for that information. And then I think WECNA is having something on June 10th, correct?
10th. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot going on in the month of June. So please come out and support your community. Parents, get your kids ready for the summer. There's going to be a lot of great things that are going to be happening in New Iberia. That's it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Michael Bell, he's gonna be missed. So prayers for his family. Tricycle races were fun. I had a good time. I actually offered for Ricky to go ahead and take my spot, but he declined.
You just ran 5K, man.
Hey, but no, it was fun. They're gonna grow it. They're gonna grow it, try and grow it some more next year, and see what happens. I mean, it was a good year, good little turnout. We had a great time. Weather kind of stalled us before, and then it shut us down pretty quick after. Also, I believe another public servant here in Iberia Parish, Curtis Joe Baudouin, passed away. So send prayers out to his family as well. And that's it for tonight. So thank you.
Great. I'm going to talk about our demo grant that we're working on, and I got to read this. A public hearing will be held at 10:30 on Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023, in the council chambers located on the 3rd floor of City Hall to obtain views of the housing and community development needs of the city of New Iberia. And this is a grant. Yeah, no, did you Jack? This is a grant that we're applying for, and what I need from each one of you is houses that people want to demo. So if you can come up with a list, if you can talk to people, if you see them and realize that they might want to get rid of it, that they, you know, it's in the neighborhood, they own it, but they're not going to do anything with it, then this is an opportunity. So we need to, we're going to run out of time if we don't start. So I'm asking each council person, if you know of a property owner that wants to get rid of a piece, commercial or residential, we need to move on that quickly, and I need, you know, names and information. So that's something I'm asking for.
So can we also ask the public, if you're listening to this meeting, even if it's on YouTube, to contact your council person?
Yes, call
and
your
let,
council
you know,
person.
call us. We'll put your name on the
We have
list.
a bill. We're not sure we're gonna get it, but if we get it, it will be free. And other communities are doing the same thing, I found out today, so it's just time to say, you know,
Yeah.
we weren't getting the cat out of the bag because I thought we had an angle, and now here, that's what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
So we need to get it out there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And what we're looking for is owners, because there's no lien on this thing, not temporarily or anything. We're looking for people who will agree to have their properties torn down.
Yes.
Because the problem that we have in the regular demolition process is we're doing this on an adversary basis and making people do stuff.
Right.
And this is an opportunity, but we have to move quickly. So
Yes.
we're not gonna be we're not looking for what Marlo calls grandma's house, you know, with 20 different owners. We need something that's pretty simple, if we can do it, but, you know, it's kind of an all-you-can-eat
Yep.
deal. So if we miss out, you know, if we don't move quickly, we're not gonna get the,
Yeah, and we only have
get the
one shot
benefit.
to turn in the list.
yeah,
Check
yeah.
it.
We called in on a bunch of houses already.
But they have to be ones that we're not just turning in. You have to know from the owner that they want to tear it down.
Okay.
It can't be like we're going after them. That's not, it's
Yeah.
reversing roles of the way we normally do things.
It's a weird
It's a
opportunity.
weird thing, but if you know of someone who wants to get rid of a structure, man, please let us know, and the public as well.
Right.
Other than that, our next meeting is June the 6th, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank you.